Okay, gentlemen, you're live.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the workshop of the Board of County Commissioners for October 25th. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, again, thank you all for coming. And first on our schedule, we're going to start just a few minutes early because we have a meeting out on Road 19 with MVIC at 3 o'clock, and we'll have to leave promptly at about 2:40. DWCD and the concerns with the NCA, Ken Curtis.
Okay, I'll go relatively quickly and let you ask questions, or we can get back together if necessary. Appreciate the last second scheduling. Tomorrow didn't look much better. We have returned these comments to Senator Bennett's office. Appreciate John Whitney taking them and talking to us. We are trying to line up a discussion with their work group, see if we can work these in. Alternatively, they could be sent in as comments to the senator. So real quickly, we turned it into a list. We've been all about the water issues and how they impact the Dolores project. So we won't comment on most of the other broader themes. But what we saw in the NCA generally was a lot of land use consideration, negotiations, probably for the betterment of the community on the land use issues, but very little on the water, kind of a walks like a wild and scenic, talks like a wild and scenic. It pretty much is a wild and scenic without the name and without the Federal Reserve water right. Although a Federal Reserve water right is an added layer of complexity, it would be a junior water right, so we did not initially see it as a end all or a major problem. If given the choice, we'd rather not have one, but just because you have one doesn't mean it's the end of the world. We already have two state in-stream flows downstream that can do a lot of the similar activities as the Federal Reserve. It would not trump the senior water rights. Having said that, I'll start going through the list. I mean, we appreciate what they've done, and the working group obviously has come to a lot of these land use decisions, but we didn't see, as I mentioned, we didn't see a whole lot for the water, but with a few adjustments, we think it would be appropriately address our water concerns. First one is a legal writing question. The purposes of the NCA are all protective to the environment. We understand that's the big reason why it's been under study for a wild and scenic. Having said that, we want to clarify that it doesn't trump the stuff in the back. Some writers say the specifics trump the generalities, but when we talked about it, we could see the potential. Someone argues anything, even in the back exemptions where the protections are not within this general purpose. Just a potential argument down the road for our successors, and we'd just like to clarify that. That's what A is about. Because they say, here's what we want to protect. Great, I think everybody agrees with that. But all those protections in the back on Dolores Project and other issues, we just want to make sure if people see a conflict there, just because it's not written into the front one, that it's not a future argument to be had in court. Moving on, I think we all looked at the advisory councils and kind of questioned where they were at. The first one, kind of B and C somewhat go together. Clearly in A, we kind of think there needs to be some water participation. We don't know that to write it in specifically for DWCD. But we are concerned with these downstream efforts and have been the convening entity for a lot of these downstream efforts, Dolores River Dialogue, the monitoring and recommendation team. So we'd like to make sure there is a water voice on that advisory committee. And then with C, we weren't sure why La Plata County and non-contiguous county. We assume it's for some of the work group, which is fine. We understand our area that some of those members of the work group may not be in the contiguous counties. We didn't think particularly we saw it as jumping over a whole lot of ranchers and ag interests over in all 4 counties. To get to an outside county just seemed a little weird, so we suggested C. The undefined terms kind of gets to the downstream fish. We do believe what's realistic is a round-tailed chub. We're not sure they will go for this, but we do think we need to talk to them about it. Clearly, we want to get beyond native fish. The talk since long before I've been here is about the 2 sucker species, bluehead, flannelmouth, and the round-tailed chub, which has always been the common fish down there. We've understood that the suckers do a lot better below the San Miguel because they have a different environment that riffles, where the water is more plentiful than the pool environment that the chub lives in. This is our suggestion. We'll see where we get with it. Finally, the biggest one to us is, although this is an alternative to wild and scenic, you can see how they've extended above McPhee. They've made a buffer potentially, and we just don't think that's right. We think if this is what an agreed to protection, we're going to protect this environment more or less as is. It ought to live within the existing rights that they say they're protecting. And so we think these comments about this Appendix D and using wild and scenic law to evaluate upstream issues shouldn't be there. I think the important point is that controlling water rights are first Montezuma Valley, followed by DWCD and the storage. Anything that goes on beyond that are going to be subject to those too, because most times, at least 50%, they can control the whole river. And so the one named one we have is Plateau Creek Reservoir. We may develop it someday. It's an existing conditional right. It will only fill when those 2 senior rights are fulfilled. In anything else that goes on, in exchange, Town of Rico, if they ever need to do something, other water rights changes that go on upstream could fall under this development clause. So we think they want to protect the lower Dolores, great. They've got the restrictions on dams and other things other than minor diversion changes, great, keep it in there. But why do this buffer up through the dam? So that's a real big issue because to us it's a giant impediment. They're trying to put in on conditionals where they say conditionals are fine, and they put a giant step in front of it. So we hope that they'll understand. I can conjecture where they came up with this, but we need to talk to them. We hope they'll understand that we don't think going through the reservoir really gains them anything, but it puts restrictions on us should we ever need to develop some of those conditional water rights. So that's kind of the way we see it as a board. We're going to give it a shot in trying to work with them and see where it goes from there. We'd like to get on board and support it. But if there's not a whole lot for the water community, it's hard to also get on the bandwagon. The land use issues we recognize were real. We don't want to downplay them. They're just out of our bailiwick. So you guys have maybe broader issues to consider. But seeing as most of the land, particularly in Montezuma County, is federal. I mean, there's only 2-3 private parcels down there. We just don't see a whole lot of change going on.
The water issue is our big issue because, like you say, there's only a few miles of.
I mean, federal, yeah.
It's all federal down there, so.
And we understand Dolores County had specific development targets and other stuff. We respect that, but they need to understand where we see the risks.
How was your conversation with John Whitney when you presented it all to him? Did he have any real responses, or did he just take note of it? And
no, I guess I didn't realize how much he had participated, but I think he had a pretty good handle on where some of these were coming from. And he agreed that he'd try and bring the group together and trying to talk to us about these. He obviously didn't make any commitments. Sure. He knew of some had a stronger background than others. And so that's where I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I appreciate he told us what he remembered from the work group, where these were coming from. And of course, that's a time where we were participating in it, and then we weren't. Therefore, there's a gap there where they thought they left the water alone. But in our mind, the water was never resolved under the last revision.
And that was
When
in
the water-
2018, the last, or
Several years
17?
ago, yeah.
17,
So-
18?
Although we were active at that point, we had never agreed that the water was all there. So in their minds, when they first presented, they left the water alone and thought everything was okay. Well, in reading through the new thing, the new NCA, we said, well, water kind of cratered it last time, and these had never been quite addressed. So we'll find out more if we get back with the work group. Maybe they just didn't have the water interests there, I think, and maybe they'll understand, and maybe we can work some of these out. So John was, he couldn't speak for the whole group, but he was very informative and receptive to at least getting a conversation going.
And so, Ken, is there any action, obviously the board cannot act today in a workshop, but is there any action that you want to see from the board as far as our correspondence or outreach with the senator's office regarding this NCA?
I would ask if you are going to correspond in the short term that you at least understand and say not contradict these issues, that they're real potential issues. How the board, county commissioners feel they impact them, they may want to support these or not, depending on what we can do with the work group. We could be supportive of the bill. We'll send something to the senator. We could be on the sidelines. We could be against the bill. And once we see what we can work out with the work group, I'm sure our board will look at it again and come out with a formal recommendation, pro or con. And then we may ask you, Shaq, at that point, that happens, and I'm not sure where the deadline, lost track of their submittal deadline. Early November?
Yeah, I was gonna say 28th.
28th October, November, October?
October.
Okay.
For-
So I
these
I
initial
actually need to
comments.
This
submit
week?
these. So I'll submit these as our comments at the moment.
Okay.
So I would say just keep them in mind, and if one or two of them speak specifically to you, great, you might mention that. Otherwise, don't tread on them, as it were, or don't contradict them without good reason. And let's see where we can get with the bill.
Okay.
Because at least these are, we think, all our issues. We didn't look real hard at the other issues, so you guys may have seen other stuff. We just tried to narrow our focus to the water.
To the water. Okay.
We appreciate your input, tell you what.
Thank you. And I feel the water is our main
Yeah,
objective here too, because like I say, we don't have
Well,
hardly any land in this deal, so we just gotta make sure that our users' water's protected and
yeah, we really don't. Our, I think it's 6 mile or whatever it is. It's not.
And all of it already belongs to the
To
BLM.
the, yeah.
So,
There's very little that impacts us as really even land use, because it's part of the, my deal is the management plan, and if they're gonna take that 3 years to establish that after, I mean, that,
pass and then tell us what they're going to do.
yeah, that's really more of my concern, because I'm looking at my notes here, and I have got 2 question marks there, which always makes me wonder, why did I write that down? And I don't know. It's a little, I get a little
yeah.
iffy when I say, well, if this passes, then they'll create the management plan and it'll be up to 3 years. Well, then what are we going to get into it as far as that goes? But obviously that's not a water issue. So,
Well, it kind of is.
oh, yeah, it's a.
Well,
the whole-
You might have a seat at the table, though,
Yeah.
if
Right.
things work out, if we can get this where we can support it.
correct. And I think if they look at this, and John seems to be pretty reasonable. Hopefully you can take it back to the group, and
Agreed.
because I think if they have more support, the better off they are than like they were in the past, where they had, 3 counties out of 5 drop out. Okay?
Agreed. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot,
All
Ken.
right, thanks, Ken. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
James, have you got to read these?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
A letter
because we-
saying that we would like DWCD's concerns heard
Yeah.
would
Right.
be,
And
I
that
think
way
a-
it's
That would
not,
help.
not opposition of what DWCD is going to present.
Yeah,
And I think it can be very short and sweet.
Yeah.
that just
Yeah.
says, we want you to strongly consider what DWCD is saying. Great, thanks, James.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next up on our agenda of our workshop, we have Homes Fund. And with this, we have Lisa Bloomquist. All right. Palmer, I'm sorry.
I see that we have the presentation, and we'll have monitors, but just in case you
Yeah.
prefer paper.
I love paper.
There you go.
I'm that kind of person. I just-
We won't let him
And then
use
I
his
don't
crayons
have
on the monitor.
screen. Sorry, I only.
You can have this. I've got the
and my
screen right in
notes are
front of
right
me.
here on it, I can go back.
Why are there so many notes on your monitor then?
Well, And then I don't know, they changed the monitor.
Gonna
and then
take
my
his
notes
crayons
don't-
away
Then
again.
my notes don't match.
So,
All right.
good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Lisa Bloomquist. I'm the Executive Director for Homes Fund. And I have been before the Board of County Commissioners before, but it's been a little while, and I apologize for not coming down more often. Today, I'm asking for a letter of, what is it? A letter of support, pretty much, for an application for funds from the state of Colorado. HDG funds, I believe that stands for Housing Development Grant Funds, to support our mortgage assistance program. But while I'm asking for that, I wanted to give you a little bit of context of who we are and what we do and what we're doing in Montezuma County. So next slide, please. So Homes Fund is a nonprofit organization. We're based in Durango. We serve all of Region 9, so of course that includes Montezuma County. And we provide homebuyer education, housing counseling, and mortgage assistance. Our homebuyer education classes, we offer them every other month here in Cortez. We just had one this last Saturday. It was very well attended. And we also had volunteer presenters from the community. People who are lenders and realtors in our community came in to present in that class. And it was a full class. It was one of the fullest we've had since the pandemic started. And for a long time, we had to not have in-person homebuyer education classes, but we resumed those in June. We also offer one-on-one housing counseling to make sure that people are ready for home ownership and that they have all of the information they need to make it a sustainable decision. And then we offer financial assistance. We call it mortgage assistance. Some people call it down payment assistance. We use those terms somewhat interchangeably, but it's financial assistance to get people over the barrier between low workforce wages and high home prices. I'm sure that, as you know, if not quantitatively, at least intuitively, wages have been going up kind of slowly but steadily, and home prices have been skyrocketing. And so we hope to fill that gap with some financial assistance. Next slide, please. The other programs that we offer are manufactured and mobile home financing and pre-development financing for affordable housing developments. So the manufactured and mobile home financing, often for manufactured homes, they can be difficult to finance, even if they're affixed to land and considered to be real estate. If the home has been moved, if for some reason it doesn't necessarily meet the requirements of the secondary market, it can be difficult to finance. So we do offer first mortgage loans for difficult to finance manufactured homes. And I know that the Housing Authority has been working on several affordable housing projects, but if you know of any other developers who would like to work or who need any sort of financing for their development, we're happy to work with them. We're happy to work with the Housing Authority. Just want to help out with being a resource and getting those projects done.
Lisa, a lot of banks and traditional lenders will not loan on a mobile home if it's not on a foundation. Will you loan if it is not on a foundation?
So right now, the answer is yes in La Plata County, but not down here in Montezuma County. Right now, we're seeking some more money so
How
that we
bad do you want
could
that
do
letter?
that.
Just
Huh?
kid- I said, how bad do you want that letter? I was just kidding.
So we are seeking some money from the CDFI fund, which is part of the Department of the Treasury, so that we have enough to go around throughout our whole region. But the program where if a home is real estate, if it is attached to a permanent foundation, then we can't, but it's still difficult to finance, then we do offer that here in Montezuma County.
Okay.
So next slide. So the cost of home ownership in Montezuma County, well, it's going up all over the region. And these are from the Region 9 2019 housing report, when the median home price was $217,500, and 37% of families had less than the income needed to purchase the median home. As you'll see from the next slide, though, home prices have gone up really significantly since 2019. You know, our mortgage assistance loans are in the form of shared appreciation loans. So they're 0% interest, there are no payments, but when people either sell or refinance, or if they're not living in the property, then they pay us back the principal plus a proportional share of the appreciation. And we've been seeing appreciation that's just through the roof here in Cortez. It's been really insane.
Proportional share.
So,
How is that based? Is that
yeah,
percentage?
yeah. So we're offering $21,000. So just to make the math really easy, let's say someone's purchasing a $210,000 home. So that's 10%. So we would get paid back our $21,000 plus 10% of the appreciation. And so, you know, really, they gain, we gain. It's really a rising tide raises all boats type of thing. It's a proportional share. We're not taking more than our proportion.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're seeing really skyrocketing home prices here, and frankly, Montezuma County and Dolores County are the two most affordable counties in the region, and it's still getting out of people's reach. So it's a bit of a conundrum. So next slide, please. So the mortgage assistance loans, they basically fill that gap between the workforce wages and high home prices. We're currently able to offer $21,000 of mortgage assistance to households that are under 100% of area median income, and exactly what that household income is, it depends on the household size. But you know, below the median income, we're able to offer assistance. As I said, we also offer our homebuyer education and housing counseling. And next slide, I have some outcomes. We have provided homebuyer education to 161 Montezuma County households. That's in-person homebuyer education. Housing counseling has been provided to 105 Montezuma County households. 46 Montezuma County households have used Homes Fund mortgage assistance to buy a home, and that's $808,082 of mortgage assistance that has been put into Montezuma County to help people to buy homes. And the next couple of slides are just pictures of some happy homeowners, people who wouldn't have been able to get into home ownership without our assistance.
I do have a question,
Yeah, you bet.
Lisa, on this happy homeowner picture with the orange crush hat. Was that before or after the start of this season?
So that was before. I've got a couple of pictures of him in his Broncos hats, and maybe shouldn't include those. It's a political hot button. No. So what we are respectfully requesting is a letter of support as we seek a little bit over $2 million from the state of Colorado. And this is for HDG funds, like I said, housing development grant, and it's mortgage assistance capital for us.
So I've got a question. How many attendees did you have on this last class that you did for your
First time
that you're
home
doing
buyer.
every other month for your education of the
Yeah, last Saturday, I believe that there were 15 people there.
15?
Yeah.
Is that like an 8-hour class or
It
what
is.
that?
It is. It goes from 8:30, well, 7-hour class, from 8:30 to 4:30. And it's a great class. It covers budgeting, it covers the pros and cons of home ownership, pros and cons of renting. We have a realtor come in and talk about the real estate process. We have a lender come in and talk about the different types of loans, you know, FHA loan, USDA loan, conventional loans. We talk about our programs. The homebuyer education class meets the requirements of CHAFA. That's Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. And they have a set curriculum that they make us follow, and they do audit the classes and make sure that we follow their curriculum, so that it meets their standards. And yeah, it really is a very comprehensive and informative class. And you're welcome to attend. The homebuyer education classes and the housing counseling are available to anyone regardless of income. The mortgage assistance program, people have to be under certain household income limits.
Okay, very good.
Where and when are your classes?
So here they're every other month. I believe it was in the school admin building. I forget what the location was. I wasn't the teacher. I apologize. I don't know that off the top of my head.
How is it advertised, I guess, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How do we get it out to-
people actually know?
Sure. So we usually come down here in between 1 and 2 weeks ahead of time and put up some flyers around town. But typically those are in the realtor and lender offices, because people who are going through the process of buying a home, that's who they're talking to. And so we do a lot of our outreach to lenders and realtors. We work with Jan Hart and Jennifer Toole over at Major Mortgage. They're great. Really, really fabulous. Happy to work with other lenders as well. We don't have like an approved lender list or anything like that. We'll work with anyone who wants their clients to access this program. But that's the main thing that we're doing. When we have the budget, we do radio ads and sometimes press releases as well. But that's a bit budget dependent and frankly time dependent, because it takes staff time to be doing things like that, and we've been quite busy lately, which is a good thing.
Good. If you have something coming up, send it to us also, because we can post it on our sites.
Yeah.
And that actually reaches quite a few people. Not that
Thank
any
you.
of them
Sure.
may or may not be interested, but until they get the proper education of how to go about the financing and then the purchasing of a home, it's kind of daunting to some people. They don't
Oh, it absolutely is daunting,
hear
and
from it.
yeah, and all of the acronyms and just I think people are afraid to ask what they think might be a dumb question, and they don't necessarily want to ask. They don't want to feel or look dumb in front of their lender and realtor, professionals that they're working with. And so it's really great for them to be able to come to this class and just ask questions in a neutral environment. And even though we have lender and realtor presenters, they do need to be a neutral educator during our homebuyer education class. They can't be there to get business. We monitor that very closely, and CHAFA monitors that very closely as well. Shaq, what did you just pull up as to what the location
I just
was?
Google searched it, and it appears that they're advertising with the Housing Authority, with USDA, with the Journal, and then on their own site, just right off the bat. So they are advertising locally.
Great.
And I would say if you want us to include your advertising, shoot that to pio@co.montezuma.co.us.
I might have to grab that from you.
Same suffix as mine, but PIO.
Okay. What does that stand for?
Public Information Officer.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we are always looking for a board member who is a representative of Montezuma County. We're awfully, our board is wonderful. They're all volunteers, great people with great expertise, who are just lending, great expertise to our organization, but it's awfully Durango centric. And we're doing a lot of loans out here in Montezuma County. We're doing a lot of activities out here. So if any of you know of anyone who might be interested in being on our board of directors, please let me know. It's it's not political appointed folks. It's typically members of the community who care about our mission. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank
Um,
you. I
thank you for
see
what you
that,
Yeah, my pleasure. It's we're trying to get people in, and hopefully they can get all the benefits of home ownership. And I think I probably don't need to go over those. You guys know what the benefits of home ownership are, and just trying to get people in the door. So, and most likely I'm going to be applying for some other money from the state as well, money from their AHIF program, and I don't recall exactly what that stands for, but I might be asking for another letter of support as
Okay.
well for that.
you can send it over to Shaq and you can get on Monday's workshops and we can go from there.
Fabulous.
Tuesdays are the days we make all of our decisions, so it'll be tomorrow before we can move on anything.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm not ready to, I don't know what I'm asking for quite yet from them. I'm preparing the grant application, but the HDG money, a little bit over $2 million for a 3-year grant is what we're
So
seeking.
one other quick question then.
Sure.
If you guys are helping with their assistance and their mortgages, what are typically in Montezuma County, and I understand that every county will be different, but what are they having to put down for down payments, and do they put their big PMIs on there with, the lenders for these first-time home buyers? Because that hurts a lot of first-time home buyers.
Sure.
PMI it's a big ticket number.
Yep, it can be. So first question, what are people putting down? It really depends on the household. We do require that people put 1% into the transaction so that they have some skin in the game.
Okay,
We want people to invest, or that people are required to invest at least 1%, but there are some situations where people could invest, they could be putting 25% down and still be, if they meet our qualifications, they could still get our assistance. We do have a program called our Building Wealth Program, where we provide in addition to our regular mortgage assistance, we provide an additional, excuse me, I apologize, an additional mortgage loan. So it ends up being a third mortgage loan that gets them to a 17% down payment. Then they put in the additional 3%, and then they have that 20% down. And so that gets rid of the PMI. Correct. So basically, the shorter answer is that we can stack our programs, and that helps to get rid of the mortgage insurance. And a big part of what I'm seeking from the state with this next grant, the AHIF money, is to provide enough mortgage assistance so that people don't have to pay that PMI. Because you're right, that money is just, it's a big ticket, and it's a large amount of money, and it doesn't benefit the homeowner at all. Not even a little bit. And that's a big part of our homebuyer education too, is telling people what mortgage insurance is and what it's not, and what it covers and what it doesn't.
Okay. All right, very good. Okay, that's all I have. Do you have
Yeah.
anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you very much for permitting me to come down, and anyone who you know who's purchasing a house, have them look into Homes Fund.
Okay.
So, all right. Thank you very much.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello?
I guess next we'll talk to the fish pond development, and we have Lisa Vecchietti, is that correct?
It's Vecchietti, but I'm actually going to hand it over to Dave Fournier, so it'll be a little bit easier for you.
Okay.
And do you want to share your screen, or do you want me to run the presentation from my end?
This guy don't want to know.
Sure, we can share our screen. Just give me a minute to do that.
Let me stop sharing.
Okay, it's saying that you have disabled our ability to screen share.
I'm going to do that right now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm choosing to make you the host, so you should be able to share now.
Great. Me. There we go. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, Shaq. This is Dave Fournier, Fish Pond Development. We are a developer of affordable housing. We've done several developments throughout Texas and are looking to expand into Colorado. Our first acquisition would be, or for renovation, would be Sleeping Ute in Cortez, Colorado. And what we are looking to do is acquire the property using tax-exempt bonds and tax credits. As part of the application, we're going, and because bonds are so competitive, we are applying through DOLA for the statewide balance of approximately $3.5 million in bonds. And I've also got Fred Marenthal from Kutak Rock, who is a bond attorney. He's on the call if anybody has any additional questions. He's definitely going to be better suited to answer those questions. But in order for us to apply to DOLA, and actually the county would be applying to DOLA on our behalf, we need to get, our request is to get an inducement resolution from the county, and then have secondly, have the county sign the application for tax-exempt bonds to DOLA, which is due, we need a signature by the end of the week in order to overnight the package to them for their November 1st deadline. And then we would also need a signature, and I believe, Mr. Powers, you have these documents, a document prepared by Kutak Rock saying that, I guess, the certification that you don't have BODCAP available right now, so that's why we're applying through DOLA.
Correct. I have those, and I've shared those documents with the commissioners as well.
So I don't know, I'm happy to go through the whole presentation, tell you a little bit about the property, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so you tell me what you would like.
Yeah, I think the commissioners need a full understanding of what's happening.
Okay. So the property is called Sleeping Ute Apartments. It's an existing Section 8 property that was rehabbed using tax credits 16 plus years ago. It hasn't had any major capital infusion since that time. The Housing Authority is a partner in the development, and they would remain a partner in the development. So what our plan is to acquire the property, put about, I think we've got approximately $25,000 in rehab. She's going to pull it up, but our rehab will focus on energy efficiency, all new appliances that are going to be Energy Star certified, low flow fixtures, LED lighting, renovation of the units. And we use in all our properties hard surface quartz or granite countertops. Basically, it becomes a much nicer property for the residents, and requires less maintenance on their part and our part. We also will be doing some landscaping upgrades and some exterior upgrades to bring the property up to where it should be today. The property, the residents have the property has an existing Section 8 contract, so the renovation costs, we're not going to be passing on any renovation costs by increasing the residents' rents. So their rents won't change. Currently, they pay 30% of their income, and HUD pays the balance. This will also extend the affordability restrictions, and in the short term, it'll also our agreement with the Housing Authority is to split the developer fee with them, so the Housing Authority will have an infusion of cash upon completion of the development as well. So one of the things that we wanted the county to consider, and also Fred can go into this just in case there's any concern about liability to the county, but let me go back one. So this would allow an investment of give or take $3 million into the city and the county. It would create 6 to 9 months construction period, so we could create construction jobs during development or during the renovation, permitting fees for the city, and so and then the greater advantage would be to the residents and also to the city. It would have a nicely renovated property in the community. Would you like me to go into the capital stack and what our plan is as well?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the property, there's an existing HUD loan that's held by the Housing Authority, and we are proposing that in lieu of a pay down of the loan, we're asking the Housing Authority, and they have agreed to keep the existing loan in place. The significant benefit is it increases the purchase price and basis, and we generate more tax credits that can go directly into the renovation. So the structure will have the existing HUD loan that will be subordinated to a new senior loan that will be held by the Housing Authority. And again, they will remain a limited partner in the transaction. We'll be applying for, or we're asking the county to apply for $3.5 million of bonds to DOLA, but not all of those bonds would be outstanding at the end of, once we complete construction. We're going to put a permanent loan on there, more than likely through Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, so that the bonds actually do go away. And there's But the county has, there's no risk to the county. The bonds do not show up on their financial statements, and there's no cost to the county. We will pick up all the issuance costs, including Mr. Barenthal's costs as well. I don't know what you have down. Yeah, I don't, can you see the sources and uses? As we talked a little bit about this. So the sources will be bringing in we'll have a new loan of 2.7 million. So that $3.5 million will get paid down with the tax credits once the tax credits come into development. We've got $2.4 million worth of federal credits. We are not applying for state credits. And the assumable soft funds, that $1.6 million, that's the existing loan that is being held by the Housing Authority, which will remain in place. And we are not, and there's a little bit of deferred developer fee, but we've structured it so that the Housing Authority would get developer fee up front. And so you can see the uses are the acquisition price of $3.5 million, 2.1 of direct construction costs, and then we have additional basis costs, financing fees, issuance costs, reserves, and then additional soft costs would be again more legal because of the HUD contract. We probably have 3 sets of attorneys involved here, and architects' fees, consultants' fees, etc. So the total development cost would be $6.8 million. And just an aside, the reason that we asked for $3.5 million in tax-exempt bonds is in order to qualify for tax credits, you need to finance 50% of the total development costs using tax-exempt bonds. So we need to make sure we ask for enough, that we have some cushion if costs go over, that we're covered. Because if you don't have enough of the development costs covered by bonds, you basically get penalized on your tax credits. And so this is a page, again, going back to the ask, which I mentioned at the beginning. Again, at this stage, we're asking for an inducement resolution so that we can apply, or so that, again, the county can apply on our behalf for the tax-exempt bonds, and the signature on the application, and then the certification about outstanding bond capacity.
So, Dave, I have a quick question on that, and just to make sure that I'm clear. But you said there is no liability to the county, and there is no risk or cost at all for the bond, correct?
That is correct. That's covered by the development, and I see Fred just unmuted, so he is probably, he can explain a lot better than I can.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Fred Marienthal from QTAC Rock. Under the County and Municipality Development Revenue Bond Act, the county can issue these bonds on what we call a conduit basis. And that means that the project and the borrower are 100% financially liable for the repayment of the bonds. And the county's involvement is strictly to touch the transaction in a sufficient amount to trigger the tax exemption for the bonds, as well as satisfy the tax credit requirement that there be a tax-exempt bond issued to trigger the 4% low-income housing tax credit equity into the project. And so this transaction, in this transaction, the county would be indemnified by the borrower for all costs and expenses pre and post issuance.
Okay.
And Fred, this is Ian McLaren, the county attorney. Do you have a site for that act, or could you just say it again? I didn't catch it when you said it.
Sure, it's the County and Municipality Development Revenue Bond Act,
Okay.
and it's 293101 et sec.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Gentlemen, questions?
No, you pretty much answered it. You asked a good question about county's exposure, and that's been answered, so I don't have any.
Okay.
And so I have a resolution prepared for the commissioners for tomorrow, which you've all
Yep.
looked over, assuming you decide to move forward with this. And it sounds like that Fish Pond would do all of the DOLA application and just need a signature on that?
That's correct. And we're hoping that you're able to have a representative of the county sign on Friday. Because of the timing issues, we actually need every last minute before the application is due in order to get it put together.
And so, does that need to be a board member that signs, or can I sign that as the administrator?
It just says that it has to be someone who has the authority to sign on behalf of the county. So I'm not sure how that works in your county.
I've seen these applications signed by county administrators, county managers, economic development managers. The inducement resolution can grant that delegation if that's standard and customary for the county to have the administrator do it. That would be just fine. And it's the same with the certificate that we prepare that needs to get signed. That can be signed by the county administrator. No harm there.
I think that tomorrow, should the commission decide to do this, we should include the authority to sign in the motion so that we at least have it recorded in the minutes to attach to it.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Sounds good. I have one other question, Dave, or Fred, whoever wants to answer this, but you said at the beginning of the presentation that this is your first in this region or in Colorado. Where else are you? I mean, I've never heard of the fish pond. Not that that means anything, but where else are you, and where else are you functioning out of?
We actually own, I own with a partner under a different entity an existing property in Colorado. We also, we've developed over the last 3 years about $50 million of affordable housing, mostly seniors, in a lot of rural communities in Texas, Cuero, Portland, Texas. Everybody always says, "Oh, I love Portland." I'm like, it's Portland, Texas. But Huntsville, we've got several in Corpus Christi that we're doing. So we've been very active in Texas, but in addition to the new developments, I'm also owner in about 5,000 existing apartment units that are in Tennessee and that, like I said, Colorado. So we're very, pretty strong from a guarantor standpoint. But this would be our first bond transaction in Colorado.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, well, I mentioned the existing property we own in Eagle.
Oh, I meant Northeast Plaza.
I think that was on the slide. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
I have none.
Okay, well, Brad, David, thank you guys. Lisa, I know you're back there somewhere in the background, but we don't have anything else, and we do have information to come before us tomorrow. So I thank you for your time, if you have nothing.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
So commissioners, I'll run through that act tonight and give it a look. I'm just looking at it now, but I'll be prepared to just confirm what the attorney from Kentucky.
293-101.
It's 29-3-10-101, and it looks like actually the statute that's if you want to give it a look, it's 29-3-105. That's the one that discusses the limitation on the county's pecuniary interests and whatnot. But again, I just got the site now, so I'll look through the entire act tonight and be sure we're good and clear.
Okay. Okay, I guess, Shaq, if you have anything else you want to talk about, we're actually going to make it. If not, we'll take off and we'll reconvene this meeting at 3 o'clock out on Road 19,
And we'll just adjourn from there.
we'll just adjourn from there.
No need to give anybody a dead screen on YouTube.
So, okay, thank you all for coming.